You've seen so far how to create rectangles and perfect squares and ovals and perfect circles, and just a moment ago you saw how to create polygons. Good stuff. Now, what I want to do though is I want to introduce you to another group of shape tools here. I want to show you how to create things like stars and spirals and things like this, and it's all possible here inside CorelDRAW. All of these tools are hidden underneath your polygon tool inside the toolbox. So what you'll need to do is click and hold with your mouse over top of the polygon tool there, and then inside the toolbox flyout, of course, you'll see polygon, but then you'll also see star, and you'll see complex star, and then graph paper and spiral. Now, these are the guys that I want to show you here. Let's start off with star. So I'm going to make sure that I choose that guy. And then, very much like your rectangles and your ovals and so on, all you need to do is just click and drag out with the tool on your page to create stars. Awesome stuff. So there you go. So that's kind of really all there is to it. Now, if you want, again, very much like your polygons and your ovals and your rectangles, you can hold down your modifier keys on your keyboard while you're creating your shapes. So in other words, what I could do is I could hold down Control and then click and drag out my star, and that creates, I guess, what you could call maybe you could call it a perfect star or a symmetrical star. Notice I can't sort of change the dimensions of the star in terms of the ratio between the width and height. Compare what I just did there with Control down to just dragging out a star. Here, I'm not holding down Control, so I can create very narrow stars or, squishy stars, this kind of thing. Or again, with Control held down, I create these perfect stars. So I hope that makes sense. And then, of course, I can also hold down Shift if I want to create stars from the center. This sort of an idea, right? So again, you can certainly take a moment and monkey around with this if you like. But I think what I'll do is I'll just hit Control A on my keyboard to select everything on my screen, and then I'll hit Delete just to blow everything out here, because I want to show you a couple of other things here. I'm going to drag out yet another star onto my page here, and I want to take a moment and show you some of the options on the properties bar running across the top of the interface. Now, by this point, you should be very comfortable with a lot of these settings here. We've already talked about the X and the Y quite a bit, the width and the height, and so on, the rotation and the mirroring. But I want to show you two other options down towards the right side of the properties bar there. This first fella here will allow us to set the number of points on our star. So for example, right now I have the default value, which is 5, but I can increase that value or decrease that value either by using the arrows there, the up and down arrows, or I can type in a value, I suppose, if I really wanted to. So maybe I want a 15 point or a 15-sided star, if that makes sense. Maybe something like this, right? Or at any time I can come back and reduce down the number of points if I want. So hopefully fairly straightforward and fairly clear on that. Now, the next guy, the guy right next door, this guy here, allows us to set the sharpness of the points or the depth of the points, if that makes sense. Now, what I can do again is I can use these up and down arrows here on the properties bar. So as you can see, a higher value here I'm into the 60s and quickly approaching the 70s. That'll create very deep points on my object, something like this, right? Or I could come up to the properties bar here and reduce this value. Maybe I'll drag this all the way down into the 40s perhaps, and you can see that now I have very shallow points on my object. So there you go. So again, you can use the arrows or you can just type in a value for the sharpness value. And what's cool here too is now that I've set this up, when I go and create another object, it resets itself. So then what I'd have to do is I'd have to come back up to the top and go and readjust it from there. So it kind of resets itself every time you drag out a new shape. So hopefully all good there. Okay, wonderful stuff. There's your star tool. Hopefully no big deal. Once again, I'll select everything on my screen here, Control A, and then I'll delete just to sort of start over again. There's the star tool. Now, let me show you his sort of twin sister, the complex star tool, again hidden underneath the flyout inside the toolbox there. Go ahead and grab the complex star tool, and essentially the star tool and the complex star tool are the same in terms of functionality. You can drag them out, you can hold down Control, you can hold down Shift, all this good stuff, right? But the difference is the actual shape that you're going to get. Now we have stars that have these interior lines, which are very cool, and you can definitely create some very eye-popping and very cool special effects with these guys here. I love this complex star tool. And again, in terms of that functionality, all of your options on the properties bar at the top there are all the same. They all function in the same way. So I can increase the number of points there if I want. If I want to create a very complicated looking shape, maybe something like this, or I can reduce down the number of points. And again, the depth of the sides, maybe something like this, right? So you can certainly have a lot of fun with this guy. And I'm sure at this point you'll want to pause the video and fiddle around for a few minutes with this guy, because this guy is very, very cool. So go ahead and fiddle around, and I'll catch up with you in the next lesson.
To change your